run across like these landscape fires, giving them some conversation. I'm a really
Virgin. I forgot about that. So it didn't do well.
the first one did really well.
And then what happened?
And then it kind of got weird. So, you know, it was stinky and something.
Really?
Yeah, I got a little losses.
Yeah.
We got political and stuff. The first one was okay. Like straight up. I'm not even kidding. That one was great.
That's white too. I know.
What's the topic? What's the subject going to say?
Isn't that wild?
I remember that one.
Is that what was the crowd? Huh?
You really? He's not young.
No.
Everybody's hungry. I know, thank you. I don't need to eat this.
Oh, yeah, so when Robert Scott was off of drugs, he didn't have one. I never said that.
The original series. Found it in syndication in December. Right?
My mother and I watched it on rerun.
PRC. Birmingham. That was 5-6. Really? Carried for syndication for 6 months, they're gone. Then they come back again, gone. Little 6-month run, sometimes a 3-month run. Syndication. Right? And there wasn't a lot.
Everyone. That's the mayor for you. Mayor, we're ready to start. You ready?
He's ready.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the committee meetings for May 13th, 2025. The elected body president, Mayor Kurt Wilson, Council Member Christine Hall, Council Member Alan Sells, Council Member David Johnson, Council Member Sarah Beeson, Council Member G. Lee Hills, Council Member William Northland. I am Randy Knighton, the CAO, City Administrator, along with the Chief Legal Officer, Mr. David Davidson, and Michelle Miller, the Executive Assistant to the Council, and Deputy City Clerk. Welcome, everyone, again, and the purpose of committee meetings are for the city departments to convey information to the City Council and to discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda, as well as provide updates of essential information on the operation of city government. And by ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor and council, as well as the city administrator, who serves as the chair of the meetings. And this is a public meeting, not a public hearing. Therefore, while we certainly do welcome members of the public and those who are here, we do not generally take comments at committee meetings unless specifically authorized by the mayor and council. And public comments and questions are, of course, received on the second and fourth Monday of each month in our mayor and council meetings, and also the fifth Monday in open forum. I will add a note this evening. Our committee meeting will take place, our next committee meeting will take place on Tuesday, of course, May 27th at 5 p.m., and then will be followed by our mayor and council meeting. That will be on Tuesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. That, of course, is due to the Memorial Day holiday, which is on Monday, May 26th. We do encourage all of our residents, of course, to engage our online platforms and reach out to our team members if you have any questions regarding city government, and also access the web service portal to report any issues or concerns, and visit Roswell365.com for a calendar of events. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for April 29th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Beeson, second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. The second item listed on the agenda under administration, consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 3 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell to permit and regulate special event facilities to allow for wine to be brought into a special event facility under certain conditions and for other purposes. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. This is ordinance. Currently under our ordinance, we provide that a special events facility can have a consumption on the premise license to sell alcohol. This is to clarify that a special events facility could be a facility that is rented out for classes, and those classes, if they serve a dinner, they would be allowed to allow somebody to bring in a bottle of wine to have with their dinner, and if they don't finish it, then they could cork it, wrap it, and take it with whatever they didn't finish. It also provides clarity that cooking classes would be considered part of the special events facility. We recommend moving this forward.
Any questions of council? Yes, Councilmember Hills.
Just comments. This is a entrepreneur who is putting in a cooking school or cooking classes over on the east side in East Village, in the commercial spot over there, and looking forward to offering a new opportunity for people to enjoy themselves on a night out, a group of ladies, a couples group, or whatever, a golf team, whatever, and come in and do a cooking class, and then to be able to enjoy wine to go along with the meal that they prepare during the class. So very excited to support this young entrepreneur and her endeavor over there in East Roswell. Maybe it'll spread over to the west as well, but this is a great way for us to be able to offer something to make that business much more appealing and sellable. So I support this all the way.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Hills. Any questions, any comments? Seeing none. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Councilmember Northland.
The individual that Councilmember Hills is speaking about came into City Hall, gave us her business plan, gave us her vision. She has everything very much in line, very well laid out, very thoughtful. But the best thing that I took away from her presentation is she as an individual already has a pouring license, as she is already a bartender. She's already gone through the rigmarole of getting all those licenses in order. So she understands the significance and the importance of treating this the right way.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Hills, second by Councilmember Morthland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes unanimously as well, and we'll move forward. Under Community Development, item number 3. Item number 3, consideration of the retaining wall for 199 Grove Way, Roswell Housing Authority.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is the retaining wall that is proposed to be at the development for Roswell Housing Authority at 199 Grove Way. A consideration for a retaining wall for the Roswell Housing Authority redevelopment on the south side of Grove Way. It will be visible slightly from Oxbow Road. The wall ranges from 7 to 16 feet and will be mechanically stabilized earth. Wall comprised of concrete blocks, aggregate backfill, and geosynthetic grit. The retaining wall will be screened by trees planted 12 foot on center along the outside towards Oxbow Road. The Design Review Board approved the DRB case on October 1st, 2024, and the LDP for demolition permit was issued on January 30th, 2025. There was a mistake in the packet with the year. The retaining walls over 6 feet high need approval of mayor and council. This is an enlargement of the site plan. The retaining wall is on the bottom of the site plan, just above the trees that are 12 foot on center depicted along the bottom. I think I might have a pointer here, but I'm not sure. Right along in there. So the RHA development is flipping the site where the building used to be here, the parking used to be in the front along Grove Way. The site's now flipped with the building in the front, the parking to the rear, so this retaining wall will be along this side. Here's the profile rendering of the retaining wall. This is depicting the building. This is the parking area with the lighting, and it shows the shed of the lighting, the retaining wall, the fence there, and then there'll still be a large slope before Vickery Landing and Oxbow Road. This is the plan prepared by the engineer of the profile of the wall and a picture depicting the type of block that will be there. And again, there's going to be 12 foot on center hollies along the wall. They grow 2 feet a year, and they will grow in a short amount of time to exceed the height of the wall. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Payton. Appreciate your presentation. Questions, comments? Yes. Councilmember Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton, and thank you for that presentation. I actually was in the DRB meeting when this was discussed, and not a gas light. Is there not a low vegetation with the holly trees, or is it just the holly tree screen?
The holly tree screen is along the Grove Way profile, but there are some lower plantings to the east side of the
Okay,
wall.
that's what I was remembering. And there was a lot of conversation from the Design Review Board about making sure that this was covered, that it was screened well, that the consideration was given to the residents that live below that. It's a steep grade. If you've ever driven Oxbow and look up at the land behind those townhomes right in there, it's pretty steep. I mean, it's a tall look up, and I was concerned as well because I know that's a trigger word in the city, retaining wall. So it sits in a way, I believe it's going to be aesthetically pleasing. I mean, as much as you can have that with a retaining wall with the screening, with the holly tree. So I'm in full support of this, and delighted that we're able to do this redevelopment and have it display in a beautiful way. It'll actually dress out something nicely on the back of these townhomes, because you can kind of see where, well, now you can't see Pelfrey, but you used to be able to see the the housing authority there. So it'll definitely be an improvement, but I'm not trying to say you won't know that there's a retaining wall there, but I think it's going to be done very well, and I'm in support. Thank you for that.
Councilmember Hills, any further comments or questions regarding the item? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Hills, second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, this item moves forward. Thank you. Item number 4, under community development, for now. Consideration of a final plat, 2024-5338, at 955 Myrtle Street, the Groves at Myrtle Street. Ms. Payton?
Good evening again. This is the final plat for the Groves at Myrtle Street. The timeline on this project, as it's reached this point, are that the elevations and retaining wall were approved by the Design Review Board in June of 2021. The preliminary plat was approved by Planning Commission in March of 2022. The retaining wall proposed was taller and came before Mayor and Council and was denied in January of 2023. The developer went back and revised their preliminary plat, which was approved by Planning Commission in February of 2024. The 30 townhomes and retaining wall were proposed, predominantly brick townhomes with accents of metal. Again, the 2021 DRB approval with conditions as stated here, and in June of 2021, a garage door administrative alternative finding approval with the Design Review Board process. Here's some renderings of the townhome elevations as proposed. The preliminary plat that initially went proposed 30 townhomes. It's an RX mixed use zoning. Townhomes are allowed by right. There are 15 front-loaded townhomes facing Bridgecrest, 15 rear-loaded facing Myrtle with underground detention, above-ground pond for stormwater, 15 guest parking spaces, and a 14-foot wall around the detention pond. There were 3 to 9 foot retaining wall along the full length rear of the property, and that was approved again by Planning Commission in March of 22. And this depicts that plan, and the yellow up there is the retaining wall that was proposed. The retaining wall went to Mayor and Council proposing up to a 14-foot retaining wall along the eastern property line at the detention pond. It was denied in January of 2023, so the applicant redesigned the site to reduce the retaining wall to under 6 feet, which did not need Mayor and Council approval and resulted in a loss of 3 lots and a revision to the preliminary plat. Proposed wall. So the revision of the preliminary plat reduced from 30 to 27 townhomes. 12 will now be front loading, facing Bridgecrest Road, 15 rear loaded, underground detention, above ground pond for stormwater, guest parking down from 15 to 11. The detention pond wall reduced to a maximum of 5 feet 9 inches, and the retaining wall along the full length of the eastern property line reduced to 5 feet 9 inches. February 2024, that plan was approved by Planning Commission. And you see the retaining walls here. So now the project reaches the final plat stage, which needs Mayor and Council approval. It matches the revised preliminary plat and the approved LDP. There are the 27 townhomes, 12 front-loaded, 15 rear-loaded, with underground detention and an above-ground pond for stormwater, 11 guest parking spaces. Both of the walls have a maximum height of 5 foot 9 inches. And again, final plats need an approval by Mayor and Council. This is that proposed final plat document. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Ms. Payton. Any questions, comments from Mayor and Council? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to move this item forward? Motion by Councilmember Morthland, second by Councilmember Beeson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That passes. Passes. No. Yes, Councilmember Beeson.
Before we move on to the next item, for the standby general engineering contract with Kinley Horn, I assume that's the next item? Flagging that I'll need to recuse myself as I currently have a standing contract with Kinley Horn.
All right, thank you. That is noted for the record.
I'll be back.
It's gonna be long, like, it's gonna be long, Sarah. We made the back to you yesterday.
All right, with that notation, item number 5, consideration of a task order under the standby general engineering contract number 20240000013, RFQ 24066-E, with Kimley Horn for the project management, infrastructure investment planning, economic and land use planning for the 2045 comprehensive growth plan in the amount of $298,500. Ms. Alexander Leatherman.
Thank you. I'm just going to do a couple of quick introductory comments, and then Ms. Alexander will go through a couple of slides to remind everybody what we're doing on the comp plan. And just want to thank the mayor and council for the opportunity to bring this forward. Michelle will go over kind of the technical requirements, but just want to open my comments up with we've really done some work with this scope and with Michelle's team on lining and aligning our comprehensive growth plan with our economic development strategy. And Michelle will cover some of the history over the last few comprehensive plans of why we are moving forward with this level of strategy. But we are really excited about being able to line up this comp plan strategy with our economic development strategy and then also our investment strategy of our infrastructure. And that alignment will help us continue to refine the investments that we need throughout our community as you think about impact fees, also with our tax allocation district and how we want to invest in different projects in and around the community. This will be one of the planning tools that we will use to move that forward as part of our strategy over the course of the next really 8 to 9 months of planning cycle and into 2026. So just wanted to open that up, and Michelle's team and Michelle herself will kind of outline what we're doing next with our consultant team, but also just want to say that they've done a great job getting us this far, and then looking forward to meeting our statutory requirements, but also using this plan from a strategic perspective here in the city of Roswell. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leatherman. Ms. Alexander.
Thank you. Evening, Mayor and Council. We're excited to come before you and ask permission to move forward. I know I've met with you a couple times to talk about our approach to the comprehensive growth plan, and we're focusing it on your economic growth, which is different than some of your prior comprehensive planning efforts. So we met with you a few times. We finalized the scope with the economic development team, with Daryl, with Steve, with Bob, of course with Jeff leading us. And also, we met with several of the directors who have chapters in the comprehensive plan. So you have directors who have existing master plans that will be refined to meet your vision on your economic growth strategy. So we wanted to make sure everyone was owning their piece. So it took a little while to put the scope together. You'll see it's detailed in a way it often is not. We do have already an on-call set of contractors for general engineering and investment planning. We looked at 3 firms of that have already gone through the competitive RFP bidding. We saw 3 who were qualified with both comprehensive planning, economic planning, and infrastructure planning, infrastructure investment, which is a big piece of this. We interviewed 2 firms, and we're coming before you today. In your packet, you see a proposal from Kimley Horn to move forward with a task order. Kimley Horn is a subcontractor of KB Associates. That's the firm that worked on your TAD and has one of the most intense resumes of doing economic and financial analysis. And so we're looking towards a scope, as you see, early fall, to have cost-benefit modeling added to what Bob is already doing for the city and augmenting all of the work that your team has already been working on. We plan to have the plan drafted and an implementation work program by December. It will still have to go through the Georgia State. The Department of Community Affairs blesses it. And just a reminder for folks that this document is your legal authority for making your land use decisions. So if you don't want it, You want to say no, let's make sure the policy is clear where you want to say no and where you want to say yes, and also to help you identify and prioritize infrastructure. You got a long laundry list, we got a lot of infrastructure projects, but how do we be most strategic to meet your vision for where to make those investments and prioritize? And the document's supposed to communicate your vision, and it's required every 5 years, and it's required also for our impact fee program. It authorizes us, so you can't have an impact fee program if you don't have a comprehensive plan, a long-term growth plan. It's also required for our zoning authority. If you want to have a zoning authority, you have to. But really, if we focused on how the economic development framework is going to direct this comprehensive plan in a way that your prior plans did not have such detailed direction. It's going to marry your land use with your infrastructure investment. You might recall the diagram from your strategy that you adopted as policy of the nodes. So really looking to focus on the nodes and specific investment analysis and business analysis for each of those as a real estate consideration. We still have this, it doesn't make you dizzy, there's a big smorgasbord here of items. They all still have to be covered in this comprehensive plan. So you have a team that's going to make sure we cover all the requirements that are important, but they'll be all in the service for how they meet your economic growth vision, the vision that you've laid out. So how do all the other components feed your vision? I wanted to share with prior comprehensive plans, we might have spent about 1/3 of your budget on engagement and community engagement. And that might mean, like you see here, our land use, our development map. That's a big fixation in a lot of comprehensive plans to have the development map. So you'll see, however, since 2011 and 2016 and 2021, it hasn't changed very much. You have some of the principles of a vision that says, keep our quality of residential, let's focus on those corridors and our employment and activity centers. So the plan isn't going to focus on having drawing and going through charrettes the way we have done in the past on that level. Since you've had that and the community has spoken, the community regularly speaks through this comprehensive plan on what the land use, the overall vision is. What we haven't gotten and what this budget will focus on are details. I'm not going to walk through all of the scope, but this is the summary of the scope, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's the major scope of the economic analysis, the real estate plan, the cost-benefit analysis, and it really builds, we're going to have them build out scenarios so you can do your trade-offs of how you want to help you decide your infrastructure investment. Where is it going to make the most sense? We want to optimize all those existing master plans. You have a transportation plan, Parks and Rec plan. So let's optimize from all of those, and we can get rid of the ones that no longer serve you. I know you went through an exercise early in your administration to identify plans that were no longer appropriate or didn't serve you. So let's just keep on the books and clear it, what your policy is, so staff can execute what your vision is. So we're focusing on the nodes as your economic strategy has focused on in this plan, in this scope, and we recommend moving forward with the task order and working with Kimley Horn.
All right, thank you, Ms. Alexander. Questions or comments? Seeing none, we will entertain a motion. Motion by Councilmember Morthland, second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, this will move forward. And thank you very much. And I would certainly underscore the fact that this is a monumental step in how we approach planning projects such as this, and also how we approach selection of potential vendors. And going forward, we will be very intentional about how we scope out projects for vendors that align with the vision of the mayor and council. And so as we as team members and department leaders craft RFQs and RFPs, as we craft RFPs and RFQs, those will be aligned and need to be aligned with the priorities, mayor priorities, and the vision of the mayor and council, because ultimately the vendor works for the city of Roswell and will ensure that they are operating as such. So thank you very much. And I know that a lot of work went into this, and so we appreciate your efforts there. All right, thank you. Item number 6, consideration of a short-term vacation rental resolution and ordinance. Amending section 10.10.
Does Will Morgan need to recuse himself? He's about to take a short vacation.
Yes. Mr. Davidson, Chief Legal Officer.
Thank you. I'm not sure where the resolution part came, but this is just an ordinance. Basically, this will regulate the short-term rental of houses and accessory units like garage apartments and stuff like that. And it will require somebody to get an occupational tax certificate. With that, they'll be required to be inspected by the fire department to make sure it's safe. And they will also be required to have an owner or agent available for contact 24/7 in case there is any issues. And we recommend moving this one forward.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Questions or comments from the elected body? Yes, Councilmember Beeson.
So this was an item that I wanted to bring forward, and I would consider low-hanging fruit at this time. Many other municipalities require a business license to operate a short-term rental, not only for making sure that you're capturing all taxes side, but also from the perspective of the inspections. So for example, recently in the news, you might have seen there was a headline of I believe it was a baseball player. His son passed away from carbon monoxide poisoning while staying in a short-term rental unit. Also, there was, over the last year, I've received several residents reaching out to me from their neighborhoods of coach buses pulling up in their neighborhood, dropping off church groups or cheerleading groups, and you have 30 some odd middle schoolers staying in a single family home. Those homes have not been inspected at this point in time. So God forbid there was a fire, an emergency in those homes, or they do have a carbon monoxide leak. We can't, at this point in time, inspect the home to confirm that there is a carbon monoxide detector, functioning smoke detectors, that the windows aren't nailed shut, that ingress and egress is fully functional, just for the safety of those who are actually staying within those units. Its intent is not to necessarily curtail short-term rental units at this point in time, understanding that Roswell is currently growing our hotel population in terms of being able to add more hotels to our mix. I know that we're trying to bring 2 to the downtown area online to be able to support tourism in the area, but until that happens, we obviously host a lot of weddings and events here. We want to be able to have people stay here. We just want them to be able to stay here safely. And then you will note at the end of the ordinance, and so this was walked through with the Community Development Department, the Finance Department, and the Legal Department in terms of implementation and enforceability. And the actual mechanics itself, I guess, Michelle, did you want to walk through that?
Sure, if you'd like. It goes through several different departments. Obviously, the legal is taking the lead on the ordinance itself. It'll reside through business registration, but it will depend on safety inspections from fire marshal. And then as we implement the code itself, we need to work with communications. We have a campaign started. We met with communications about how we will first inform those who are current hosts of the new ordinance. You will have a 6-month, David built in a 6-month period from when if you choose to approve it, to when the first, January 1, 2026, the first person has to be registered by. So we'll have a 6-month time to execute a campaign, first to identify and have discovery, and then conduct the communications campaign, and then work through business license. Finance department will be updating applications and their procedure, as well as the contact list. The 24/7 contact list is really important, sharing the information of who locally is available both for emergencies and for nuisance calls, and so that we have that shared across PD, fire, 911, and code enforcement, along with, obviously, the keeper of the keys is through business registration. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Alexander. Questions, comments? Yes, Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. I see that there's a provision for violations if somebody has too many people or is too loud. How are we going to understand if people are complying and registering their Airbnb and their rental with this program? Is there a way to monitor that?
Sure. I'll mention a couple things. One, people advertise, of course, all the time for Airbnbs, for VRBs. that is going to, the enforcement arm is always the most difficult and challenging, in my opinion, regarding monitoring such activity. And so we'll have to be diligent about, one, there'll be complaints if there's something out of order. Two, set up annual inspections for those who are registered. And then three, we will have to likely conduct some operations in terms of monitoring these sites that advertise in the city of Roswell. And I have in a previous life known of sting operations for certain facilities who advertise as VRBs. And so I do think that we will have to employ a number of different tactics to ensure that those who operate are legal and are compliant with our codes. Councilmember Sells, yes.
I just wanted to confirm, I believe it is the case that we have asked, like VRBO and Airbnb, they will not give us lists of the locations in the city. Is that correct?
Go ahead, David. I'm not aware of that.
They did this, that is what Georgette, your Director of Finance, has reported, that they have requested it and they cannot give it out. They say they cannot give it because the addresses because of privacy rules. When they submit their taxes to us, they submit a report showing the value, but they do not itemize the addresses. Joe Cusack was going to work with them, and get in touch with them to talk about them at least informing their hosts. So if they can't give us the information, we are requesting that the three Expedia as well. There's a couple separate umbrella organizations to give the information, our information, to the hosts as well. So to help us inform folks that are on their roster, like anyone that they're collecting taxes from, they need to send in information from us about our rules and regulations. But I'm not sure how far we've gotten with that.
So just let me see if I can unpack that a little bit. You're
Sorry.
saying that they give us a report, let's say VRBO or Airbnb gives us information about the number of bookings, and I assume the rates and the gross revenues, and thus the taxes. Is that what you're saying?
Tax numbers, yes, the dollar amount, the dollar amount of revenue and the percent of hotel motel tax that we currently collect from
But
them.
insufficient detail to verify any of that.
Insufficient detail to verify, so that's part of our follow-up.
And in particular, no way to know the addresses that we're talking about.
Not easily, but what we've done in other places and what we've timed out of looking into the maps. So each day you can go onto a map and identify within our city borders any listing that's available. When you zoom in, you typically can identify the location sufficiently enough that there's a good percent of recovery.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's just a little labor intensive, but worth it.
Councilmember Beeson.
To Councilmember Sells' point, at this point in time, it's almost an honor system of us just getting this list of like, okay, we trust that you're paying the right amount of taxes. But once this is fully opted in and we're able to confirm at least the vast majority of the short-term rentals, we should be able to cross-reference that to see if we're capturing all of those tax dollars that we should be capturing.
Councilmember Sells.
Good. You know, I talk a lot.
I'm not so sure. I hear you. But what you will know is this is how much money we got, and then you'll have those that have opted into the program. So, and it's really not, this isn't, to my mind, this isn't so much about the occupancy taxes. It's about the nuisance factor in neighborhoods. That's what this is really about. And I'm happy that they will send us money. That's super duper. But that only tells us that there's activity. It doesn't tell us where it is, and it doesn't allow us to, really what we're after is the oversight ability, and in particular, the ability to shut down, like Horseshoe Bend there's one house in particular that literally it's, tour bus drop-off site with 30, 40 people spending the weekend. So other than noise ordinances, I don't know, people sending me emails about it. I don't know how we know about that. So I'm not so worried about the taxing as I am talking about how do we find folks. And so is there any recourse? And are you saying Joe is trying to get them to proffer the information?
To yes, to at least get a little bit more information. Georgette also has said about asking them for at least, if not the addresses, then the number of units, so you can do, a number of people, so we can at least get the data underneath it. But we would still have to do that legwork to be finding the addresses. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Sells. Councilmember Morthland.
This can't come fast enough because we are getting and gearing up for the World Cup. Once the World Cup shows up, the world shows up, and they're going to be right here. We have got to have this data ready to go as we were trying to arm our police and emergency fire, 911. They have to have all the correct information for us to be able to make sure that we can respond in a timely manner. So, absolutely.
Yep, you are correct, sir. Yes, Mayor Wilson.
It's an interesting proposition that the burden falls upon the people, as represented by the city government of Roswell, that the burden falls upon the people to use its assets and resources and dollars to verify or justify the activity of a commercial business. It's a fascinating proposition. And really it's illogical at best, not including the other considerations. And Sarah, I appreciate you bringing this up. I know this is an issue in multiple townships and communities across the United States. Nobody wants to, nobody likes to get into the legislation business of wanting people to use their personal resources to make a buck, particularly when there's a need. But there's also a commercial application and aspect and commitment and responsibility to a community. There's also, there are places to do business and there are places not to do business. And that's one of the reasons you have zoning codes. And cities set those up carefully to say you can do these kind of businesses, do this kind of business in this area, you can do this kind of business in this area, you can't do this kind of business in this area. Why towns and communities like ours go to great lengths to try to set this up. So this is an interesting dynamic, which is organic. And it does seem to me troubling that the burden is on the people, us, to legitimize sales numbers and to validate those, and for us to use our time and resources to determine whether or not those are legitimate, and that information is not offered up freely by the transaction, the people who are doing the transaction. It's illogical. Doesn't make sense. And I would imagine not every township and community probably would have the same reaction I'm having, like, no, you have a burden to demonstrate proof of your transaction to the people. It's not the people's business to create the resources and use its assets to legitimize your transaction. That's illogical. And I'm sure that there are some townships or municipalities in the United States of America that probably said, you know, we're not good with that. We're not going to use our assets and resources to verify whether or not you're doing business with us and where you're doing business. So I really appreciate Sarah bringing this up. I know that a lot of communities struggle with this, and the problem is it has a lot of antennae to it. And so it's like a lot of things. Once you get into it, how serious do you want to be about it? I will offer up. I certainly support what the work that you guys have done. I appreciate Sarah bringing this up. I'm not so sure, though, that there shouldn't be some additional thought brought around this issue. And because I will tell you, as speaking for the people, I don't think it's people's burden to find out where you're doing business. I don't think it's the people's burden to have to verify, validate, because with other businesses, we have means and ways of validating your business transactions. There's accepted business forms and practices to do that. So why would this be an exception? I understand it's organic and there's some unique dynamics about it. But I don't know. I think we may need to add some coupling to this. I recognize that there's a need in the community, but there's also a need in the community to regulate it from the standpoint is people do not want large parties of people coming in as their next door neighbor in their neighborhood and then sign up for that. And they're counting on us to do something about that. So to me, it sounds like there's a lot of pieces that we need to additionally link up on this issue.
Councilmember Sells.
Just to clarify the level of involvement we expect, I mean, I see this, but so every person who, every person who has a rental, right, no matter one night or 365 nights, we're saying they have to have a business license? Is that our position?
That's what this ordinance would require, yes, sir.
Okay, so they would have to have a business license. I bet you most people who do VRBO do not.
They do not. Exactly.
Never coursed my brain.
Nope.
So there's some communications around
Correct.
that, like, okay, if you're,
So what transpires if they don't get a business license?
yeah, well, and
That's essentially what this is. This is a new classification of business license that they're required to obtain.
But I don't like, I get cited. All right, so what?
Yeah.
You cite, oh my God, I don't have a business license. I keep renting on my
$20
VR.
an
Oh my God, you
hour.
cited me. Oh my God.
$1,000 a day.
How much is it?
Up to $1,000.
Can we enforce a $1,000 a day fine?
If the judge does it.
Do we have an understanding with the court on this? I like it, as long as the court's on board from an enforcement perspective. Okay, let's get clarity on that from the court's perspective. Because I like it. Like, if you're gonna violate the law, then we have an enforcement measure, we have to make sure that the court is gonna enforce it as well.
okay, so a business license is required. An inspection is required before one has the first guest.
Yeah, so the inspection will be required in order to obtain the license.
Okay.
So they will need to have the inspection done by the fire department, and essentially the 6-month window that we've allocated between now and the end of the calendar year will also give people who are operating these short-term rentals the ability to get with the fire department, obtain that inspection, and then have that ready to go for the licensing process in 2026.
So there's no grandfathering.
It will start in 2026. So essentially, the grandfathering is we have 6 months to get everybody up to speed in preparation for the new licensing requirement that will go into effect in 26.
But you do have, I think to Alan's point, let's be clear about that. It comes in effect January 1, but you're building in some time to implement the system.
That's
You're building
correct.
in 6 months, or at least 3 months. So the reality is you wouldn't start applying, let's just talk cold turkey so everybody understands. You want to start applying you'll start doing inspections if this passes, right? You'll begin
Correct.
laying that groundwork. So if this passes in 2 weeks, you'll begin starting the inspection process, which, by the way, is a whole nother discussion. How much resources do you have to use in the city? How many businesses are we looking at? How much time are we looking at in terms of this? What's the juice for the squeeze, right? From the standpoint of this process.
Sure.
But going back to the practical, this passes in 2 weeks. It becomes effective January 1, 2026. The reality is you will not actually start applying fines until the second quarter of 2026.
That's correct.
Councilmember Beeson.
So to clarify as well, I think one of the logistics that was discussed, at least with the legal group, when we were trying to determine the 6-month window, was reaching out to Airbnb, Vrbo, and the major renter companies or the third party to get them to notify those who have properties listed on their websites or through their portals, issuing a letter to them saying you need to notify people who list on your website that this is now a legal requirement in the city of Roswell and that it needs to be implemented by January 1st.
And how did they react to that?
It's just a letter that they would be.
No. I'm talking about the VR. Did VRBO agree to do such a thing?
I've heard back from Airbnb right now, I've not heard back from VRBO at this point.
And the yes, or?
So this isn't uncommon. I mean, other municipalities have gone through legal enforcements before. In fact, Airbnb has an entire portal for municipalities to be able to operate and notify people. So I think understanding that this isn't uncommon. In fact, what's uncommon is the fact that the city of Roswell is essentially the Wild West with not regulating any of our short-term rentals.
So just, I'm sorry to be so obtuse about some of this, but, this is a new body of law, which the feedback I get is that the citizens are absolutely on board with us, reining this in. There are lots of people who are concerned about it.
I think the people are actually a lot more riled up than we
Oh,
are.
I agree, yeah. I'm pretty riled up. I'm just chill, baby. I'm chill, okay? Yeah, this is angry. But, so what, the inspection, are we looking at the commercial space inspection level? Are we talking about, so let's just say I'm granny sales here and I've got a room that I rent out. So what, am I gonna have to put a sprinkler system in, or what are we talking about here?
I'm looking to see if we have any fire folks here. But my understanding is that the classification is alternative accommodations, like a bed and breakfast. So it's not, it is a level of commercial activity, so some of the basic fire requirements, but it wouldn't be, because of your occupancy load, your determination that the house is for residential and guests, and that's what this is treated as, so alternative travel accommodations. That's like the Nike's code for it. So that's what fire marshal would determine the level of their inspection. So it, honestly, when I asked about how much time would it take, Chief Wolf's indicated between, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes if there's something complicated, and depending on how many rooms. So that was the amount of time. And also this 6-month window is, so say we have 230 listings at one snapshot in time, 230 listings, and we go through the communications process. So we are anticipating for operations, if you pursue this, to spread out those so that they make the most sense precisely for the workload and managing the volume.
I think communicating this out clearly and saying, here's all the requirements, it's going to be an aha moment for some people, so that's probably a big deal.
Relying on your hotshot communications team, absolutely.
There you go, thank you.
Well,
Mayor Wilson.
but there's an ongoing practical issue, is that the relationship these businesses are going to have, they're going to have a business license, so they have a direct relationship with the city of Roswell. They're represented, they maybe have a listing through VBRO or Airbnb or through another agency. And those are basically franchise organizations, right, that are demand aggregate, that's right. But the relationship at the local level is with whoever's renting the house out and getting a business license. And that, I would dare say that there needs to be some kind of methodology and correction so that the city of Roswell, the people of Roswell, have a direct relationship and understanding with whoever it is that's renting out their home for a day or week or whatever under the VBRO or Airbnb or whatever these terms are. Because we don't have a relationship with VBRO. We don't have a relationship with Airbnb. They're not doing business per se in the city of Roswell. As you said, they're an aggregator, but they're not doing business in the city of Roswell.
And quite frankly, we're an impediment to their business model.
That's exactly right.
They would just as soon as not be having this conversation. So I'm completely on board with that. I will say that a lot of times, so some of the phone calls I've gotten have been from HOA presidents. Help us stop this. So, just as a matter of outreach, maybe that's a great way for us to go about it, is going to the HOAs and saying, look, you guys have called out about this, and here are the things that it requires for somebody to do this. And, so you knock on their door and say, here's what the city says about this. It seems like a reasonable approach.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Just to follow up on the code question. So on the inspections, will there be a load limit, maximum occupancy that will will be prescribed?
You want to cover that?
Yeah, that's covered in here, it's covered by the fire code. It's 1018-4F. And we worked with the fire department on this directly.
Okay, thank you.
1018-4F.
So they'll basically be told, based on your house, you can have 10 people sleeping in it or 8 people sleeping in it. And that would be an easy violation to identify.
And that'll be part of their inspection, and it'll have to be posted as well as part of their inspection, so that if there's a violation, then it's there, just like you would as you walk into a building or a traditional commercial property.
Mayor Wilson.
I'm going to come back to this. I mean, I really didn't want to talk on this tonight because there's a lot. It is not the city's business, it's not the people's business to get involved in a franchise model or to interpret a franchise model. There are a lot of interesting legal questions around that, but at the end of the day, the relationship between the franchisor or the aggregator is between them and whoever they decide to license with. That's a licensing arrangement between two separate parties. The city has no interest in that arrangement. The city only has interest in the arrangement of who does a transaction inside of its locale, right? And what's interesting about this is saying, I'm reading this and it says, we're basically waiting on payment between the aggregator paying whoever has the residence, right? To me, that's not that falls outside the purview of our legal, what should be our legal responsibility of, hey, you did a transaction in the city of Roswell. It falls under a commercial umbrella. There's a transaction that you're responsible for payment for. Whether or not you collect that or not, that's your challenge. That's with your relationship with the aggregator or the franchisor. That's a whole different relationship. Your relationship is that you did business inside the city of Roswell. And that transaction has a certain value, which you should be able to legally demonstrate. If you can't legally demonstrate, you have another problem. Like, it's your responsibility to legally demonstrate your transaction. It's also your responsibility to legally pay for that transaction based upon whatever the province says the responsibility for payment is, which I think we need to come up with, by the way. And I'm not sure what it is. What is VBRO and Airbnb?
So they fall into the
8%.
the 8% hotel
Right.
motel that's
so
already
that
set.
8% should be a responsibility of
I
each
follow.
individual transaction. Not waiting on VBRO, VRBO or Airbnb or whoever the aggregator is. The transaction's been made. The transaction should be verified. We shouldn't have to verify the transaction.
Yep.
The transaction should be verified by whoever's executing the transaction, and payment should be responsible at that time, like any other transaction made. Sales tax is a perfect example, right? I'm responsible. I come in, you got to pay the sales tax instantaneously. It's the same kind of, same kind of model. Commercial transactions happened, somebody's responsible for paying that commercial transaction at that time. So, if you name a commercial business, right? They're responsible in real time for taxation. They get to collect it, right, for a week's time in some cases, and then pay it at the end of the week. But you basically are paying it in real time. And it doesn't matter whether or not you got payment or not. You're responsible for whatever the tax is based upon the transaction. Why would we make a distinguishment?
Yeah.
I'm just asking, like, why do you make a technical distinction?
I got to push back on that, but for one thing, so VRBO is doing a couple of things.
So they're not going through VRBO or Airbnb, absolutely. They are
Right.
responsible to send us that
Yes.
8%. But when you go through VRBO, Airbnb, you pay through there. So they are collecting that 8%.
I get it.
And it's just like Expedia, Hotels.com. They have to submit hotel tax to us also. So it's the same.
What
model.
kind of timetable?
So I'm not sure how often they submit it. Is it monthly or quarterly?
Monthly.
Monthly. And so you are absolutely correct that if I'm not putting my stuff or renting it through a short-term rental aggregator, then I am responsible for sending the city 8%.
And there's a good tax concept behind that, which is that the funds actually change hand.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
it's not on an accrual basis, it's a
Right.
cash basis,
Yeah.
right? So the individual who's renting the house through VRBO, they do, I mean, what are they doing? They're doing marketing, they're doing all the transacting and collecting, and then they're remitting the net to the individual, not the gross, right? So that's the challenge.
No, I get it. I'm just saying, the transaction still occurred, and the aggregator,
But it's not taxable unless it turns into cash. That's a pretty tried and true US law position. You don't have taxes on unrealized transactions. So I hear what you're saying. There was an event that occurred that's a taxable event, but if no money changes hands, then the tax is foregone. Just like if you get stiff for a bill, you're not pay taxes on that.
You're not wrong, but you don't have any leverage with the aggregator.
I get that. That's a different problem. But I agree with what you're saying about, look, our relationship is with that person, and in particular around the business license issue and the inspection issue and violations of zoning and code and stuff like that. Clearly, that's us. I think it's a little bridge too far if you think they're going to pay the cash. First of all, they're not going to get that money from VRBO. I mean, VRBO holds that, so they'd be paying it twice. Right, so that's a challenge. I don't think that's going to happen.
So this was the same circumstances that happened with the hotels and motels with Expedia, Hotels.com. We joined in a lawsuit several years ago against Hotels.com, which included Expedia, and it included Airbnb and VRBO. And it was a class action lawsuit in the state of Georgia by all the cities and counties to collect that 8% tax, or whatever, each city has their own, but ours is 8%. And so we got back payments, and we received checks for probably 5 years. Back payments on the hotel motel tax that Hotels.com, Expedia, Priceline, all those ones that are the aggregators were not collecting. And so we were able to collect.
Because they're in the chain of custody of the cash.
Because, well, people were paying them to stay in a room. So that's what happens. They're paying Airbnb. Airbnb's passing the money on to the owner after the fact. Right.
Almost like another Wayfair case.
Right.
And you're right. And the demand aggregator is just using somebody else's inventory.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
But if you think about it, I mean, there's some complexity to it because we're requiring the person who has the inventory to have an individual business license.
Yeah.
And to be individually inspected, which we should.
Yep.
And we need to bring control from the system, from a system perspective, to say, hey, you can't have 12 people at the house.
Right.
Whatever, what's it, 10, 8?
It depends on the size of the house and how it's, yeah.
If you're open.
And I think that's our regulatory interest in this matter. I mean, the taxes, like I said earlier, the taxes matter to me, but what really matters is that we have a real and waxing problem in people doing this in neighborhoods. So
100%.
that's the real regulatory issue.
But from an oversight perspective,
The fact that they won't give us the names,
that's a problem.
that's disturbing to me. I mean,
Well, it's not, you used the word fair, right? It's not fair and equitable to require certain things from some businesses to say, hey, other businesses, you get a pass because we can't make you comply. Like, that's not a great reason. Like, I can't make you comply, therefore I'm not going to
are you
require
talking
you.
about on the license side or on the tax
I'm
side?
talking about in the information side.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the tax side. So,
Yeah.
I can't make you comply, but I'm going to make everybody else comply. But since I can't figure it out, you're going to do what you're going to do. I'm just not going to mess with you. That's unjust.
I'm quite certain they have an array of lawyers
Oh.
whose job it is to make to jam a stick in the spokes of cities like us.
100%.
They don't differentiate between the hotels either. So like if we called Expedia and said, okay, well, how many people staying at the Holiday Inn? How much tax is that? They would say, we don't. We can't.
Here's your money, shut up, go away.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you can get away with it, right?
Interesting.
Councilmember Beeson.
You started all this.
I'm good. So to address Mayor Wilson's concerns, obviously there are some logistical situations to work out on the short-term rental intermediary side, which I guess would be Airbnb, Vrbo, all of those. This is really just supposed to be the initiating factor with being able to do the low-hanging fruit of just requiring the business licenses. And as well, to reiterate, that we're not the first to do this. A lot of municipalities require the business license so that you can inspect. Are you good with moving forward with this as is?
Oh, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I do it to you enough, so it's only fair. Okay. All right. serve liquor for this conversation. But yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure that your concerns
I'm
were addressed.
playing Sarah on TV.
My, how the tables have turned. Okay.
All right. Any further questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Johnson.
If you own multiple homes with, like, let's say I had an LLC to rent, it would be one business license, but every home would have to be inspected per home.
Per address. Yep. All right. Yes, Mayor Wilson.
I will make a motion to move this forward.
All right. Motion by Mayor Wilson, second by Councilmember Beeson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that passes and moves forward unanimously. Thank you. Item number 7, under infrastructure. What do we call this? Infrastructure. Consideration to award a contract with Federal EC LLC for the Briarstone Stormwater Pipelining Project in an amount not to exceed $424,050 with a budget authorization of $466,455. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this project is to line approximately 2,400 linear feet of perforated pipe that was installed in the right-of-way using cured-in-place pipe methods to avoid damage to infrastructure due to sinkholes that are common when this type of pipe is installed. The City of Roswell advertised the project on the city's website, posted on Georgia Procurement Registry, and on March 20th of this year, we had 6 bids that were received that range from $424,050 to $1,089,384,090, with the low bid being submitted by Federal EC. Federal EC was found to be responsive and responsible to perform this work. They've done numerous projects for the city throughout the years and do very quality work. We recommend awarding the contract to Federal EC in the amount of $424,050 and also request an amount of $42,405 to be allocated for unforeseen circumstances. I'll take any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Watson. Mayor Wilson.
I just motion to move this item forward.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mayor Wilson, second by Councilmember Morthland. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, that moves unanimously, and this item will go forward. Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Thank you.
Under Finance, consideration, our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Bill Godshall. Item number 8, consideration of an estimated property tax rollback rate. Mr. Godshall.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. This is a requirement by Fulton County to provide our estimated rollback rate pursuant to recent Georgia legislation that was passed in 2024 and updated in 2025. This estimate is non-binding and will be updated when Fulton County issues its final tax digest. So we have a May 31 deadline to report our estimated rollback to Fulton County, and it needs to be certified and approved by the elected body.
Thank you, Mr. Godshall. Mayor Wilson.
I would like to thank Fulton County for mandating this for all the 15 cities in the Fulton County to have to publicly, in advance, say what their rollback tax rate is. Such a gift from Fulton County. We thank you so much for doing that.
Estimated.
Estimated rollback tax rate.
Estimated.
Thank you so much, Fulton County. We really appreciate this.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, this is
Non-binding as well, non-binding.
But yeah, that's important, non-binding.
Fulton County, of course, will be doing its non-binding, it would be advancing its property tax rates well in advance as well, letting everyone know. I'm being facetious.
Okay.
All right, any questions, comments for CFO Godshall? Seeing none. All in favor, motion. Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That passes and moves forward unanimously. Seeing there are no further items for the committee meeting of May 13th, 2025, we'll entertain a motion of adjournment. Motion by Councilmember Beeson, second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.